she got beaten up by her husband's client. What will you do when your wife is so insecure? At first, you thought it was petty jealousy, but it gets worse when she beats up your client and tries to kill you. This movie is a must watch. Felicia wakes up in the middle of the night and cannot find her husband behind her on the bed. She goes to the maid, Nneka's room, to check. She opens the wardrobe, opens the bathroom door, and wakes Nneka to ask for her husband. Nneka says she does not know where he is. She's confused as to why a grown married man will be in her room. Felicia goes back to her room and sees her husband on the bed. She asks where he went. She says she looked everywhere for him. He tells her that he was in the bathroom. He says he was not even there for 2 minutes. When he came out, he did not see her. She says she doesn't want Lagos girls to snatch him. He tells her he cannot be snatched. She says he should tell her next time he's going anywhere. They go back to sleep. Nneka is in the kitchen singing. She's about to plug in the blender when Felicia enters the kitchen. She asks what Nneka is doing. Nneka says she wants to prepare lunch for her boss, Felicia's husband, Daniel. Felicia tells Nneka not to cook for her husband again. She says she knows Nneka's motive. She says that she wants to cook for her husband and steal him away. Nneka says her husband is not her spec. Felicia insults her for not having taste. Felicia is going through her husband's clothes. She smells his shirt and his pants and thinks they smell different. Her husband comes out of the bathroom and asks what the matter is. She asks him who he hugged. He says he did not hug anyone. She says his shirt smells different and definitely he hugged someone. Daniel insists that he did not. Felicia says every day is for the thief and one day is for the owner. She says she will catch him red-handed one day. Later at night, Felicia dreams that she caught her husband in bed with Nneka. When she wakes up, she sees her husband beside her. She ties their shirts together. When Daniel wakes, he wakes Felicia and says they've been robbed. Felicia asks why. He says why else will they be tied together like this? Felicia says she was the one who tied them together. She says she had a dream that he was with Nneka. Daniel asks her to untie him, that he wants to go to work. She asks if it is compulsory to go to work. She even wants to follow him to the bathroom, but he asks her to stay. Daniel is going out when Felicia stops him. She tells him that she got a call from the village that her mother is sick. Daniel says if she was fully dressed, he would have asked to drop her. Felicia says he's coming with her. She says she cannot leave him alone in the house. Daniel asks if he is a child. He says he needs to be at work, but Felicia whines and insists that he follows her. She takes him to the room and asks that he sits and waits for her while she has her bath. He asks for the car key, but she will not give him. She enters the bathroom, peeps to check. When she goes in the second time, Daniel runs out of the house. Felicia runs after him with just a towel. Outside the compound, she scolds Okoro, the gate man. She says for what he did, he has to report to her on everything that happens in the house, and he agrees. Later at night, Okoro goes into the house and does not see Nneka or his boss in the living room. He starts to wonder if Felicia is right about her husband cheating. He enters Nneka's room and still does not see her. He has already gone to check the kitchen too. He wonders where she must have gone. He opens the bathroom door and sees her. He quickly shuts the door and runs away. Daniel comes home with a lady. She compliments how big his house is. He takes her inside and tells Okoro to bring her bag in. Okoro calls Felicia and tells her that her husband has brought another woman in. He sugarcoats the whole situation and Felicia says she's coming back that evening. When they get inside, Daniel asks Nneka to take the lady's things to the guest room. Nneka asks who the lady is because she knows Felicia will not like it when she finds out. The lady laughs. Nneka laughs too. Okoro brings in the bag and Nneka takes the lady in. Daniel hears a huge banging of the door from his room and wonders who it is. He calls Okoro to ask and he tells him that it is his wife. Daniel is surprised. He goes to open the door. Felicia starts to shout and ask who and where the woman is. She tells Daniel that she has finally caught him. She sees Nneka on just a wrapper and asks why she's dressed like that with her husband being at home. Nneka says and swears that she was not the one who told Felicia anything. Felicia goes into the guest room and beats the lady. Daniel comes to stop her. He tells her that that lady is his cousin, Natasha. She apologizes and says she thought it was a husband snatcher. Natasha wonders why Felicia would beat her unprovoked. She decides to tweet about it, an insecure wife. Daniel goes to apologize and she asks him why he married a wolf. When they get to the room, Daniel tells Felicia he's tired of her behavior. Felicia asks why he did not tell her his cousin was around. Daniel says he called her, but she did not pick her calls. She says he should have found a way to tell her, dropped a message or something. Daniel says she called out of the blue that she was in town and he had to pick her. Felicia apologizes to him. He tells her she should go and apologize to Natasha because first impressions matter and she ruined the first impression. Natasha and Daniel are in the living room watching a movie and laughing. Felicia comes to the living room and asks to see her husband immediately. She takes him to the room and locks the door. She asks if he's sure that she is his cousin. He says Natasha is wearing revealing clothes and trying to seduce him. She asks him to sit inside the room and not to go anywhere. Felicia goes outside to the living room later. She and Natasha exchange dirty looks. All of a sudden, she goes into the room, carries a photo album, says she knew it, and runs outside. Daniel wonders what happened and follows her. Felicia goes back into the room, brings out the photo album, and asks Natasha to show her where she is in the group family photo taken at their wedding. Natasha says she cannot be there because she was out of town for their wedding. Felicia says since the wedding was not important enough for her to come, then she has no business being in their house. Natasha says she's disappointed in her brother and thought he could do better. She says his wife is possessed and toxic. Daniel gets angry at Natasha for talking to his wife like that. Natasha says she's leaving their house. Daniel comes back home with his cousin, Uche. Felicia sees him and they greet. He tells Daniel that they will go out to drink later after he has freshened up. Felicia asks him to repeat what he said. Daniel tells Felicia that Uche did not mean it. Uche says he's not joking. Felicia says her husband is not going anywhere with Uche, but he insists. When it is night, Felicia holds on to Daniel's shirt, asking him not to go anywhere. Daniel begs her to let him go. She says the girls at the club will snatch him from her. He says no and asks if she doesn't trust him. She says trust should go and die. She doesn't let him go. After she has fallen asleep at night, Daniel sneaks out of her tight grip and leaves. When they get back later, Felicia is already waiting in the dark for them. As soon as they enter, she turns on the light and says she wants a divorce. Uche is surprised, but Felicia says she's not talking to him. Daniel apologizes to her and says he did not do anything at the club. She asks him to swear, which he did. She smells his hands and leads him to the room. The next morning, Uche is telling Daniel about his escapades with girls. Daniel says they are not supposed to be having conversations like this in the house because his wife is around. Uche asks if he fears his wife. Daniel says he does not, but he respects her. Uche goes on explaining. He goes down and gives style descriptions. Felicia comes and asks what Uche is doing. She says he needs to leave. She accuses him of coming to corrupt her husband. Both of them argue. Uche goes to meet Nneka at night when she is sweeping. He touches her bum bum. He tells her he likes her. Nneka says she sees all the amount of girls he brings to the house. She tells him she's not interested. Uche tells her he is a huge speck that lots of girls beg for his attention. She tells him to go and take flowers and propose to her if he wants. Uche tells her not to worry and regrets coming to meet her in the first place. The next morning, Uche and Felicia are watching a movie about a married man who has a concubine at the office. Uche says this is how those married men do. He says they are married, but will have someone who relieves their stress at the office. Felicia asks if he thinks her husband does the same thing. Uche says he does not know. Felicia goes to her room to call her husband. He does not quickly pick her call. He tells her he's in a meeting and will talk to her later. She wonders why his voice is so low. She storms out of the house and goes to his office. Daniel brings her back home later and she looks bruised. Apparently, when she got to the office, she met a woman and beat her up. She thought the woman was Daniel's mistress, but she turned out to be a client. Daniel says the company is going to lose millions of naira and he will be the one to bear the loss. He says he's grateful that the woman beat Felicia. He says he's tired of tolerating her and leaves the car angry to go into the house. She bows her head in shame and goes inside. Uche sees her and laughs at her. Daniel tells Uche that he's tired. He tells him he doesn't know if Felicia is insecure, jealous, or just does not trust him. Uche says it is all of the above. He advises Daniel to cheat on Felicia so he will not suffer in vain. He says the lady will be calming Daniel down while he's being frustrated at home. Daniel says he cannot cheat on his wife. The next morning, Felicia prepares breakfast and brings it to Daniel in the room. He ignores her. She apologizes to him for coming to cause a scene at his workplace and says she will not do it again. She sweetly talks to him and he smiles. He asks her to promise it will not happen again. She says yes. At night, Nneka ties a towel and goes to knock on the door of Uche's room. When he comes outside, she tells him that she brought sheets. She says he stopped disturbing her. Uche says after he tried once and she refused, he decided to give up. She tells him that in his village, if he disturbs a girl once and she does not answer, is he not supposed to keep trying? Uche pulls her inside and they laugh. Felicia wakes up and does not see her husband beside her. She opens the door and pep talks to herself to calm down. She hears noises in Uche's room and barges in. She comes out scared. Nneka also comes out. Daniel comes and asks what happened. Nneka says that Felicia entered Uche's room and hit his head with an iron rod. The next morning, Nneka carries her load to leave. Felicia asks if she is leaving. Nneka says no. She says she cannot allow Felicia to kill her for her mother. Felicia says she did not know. She says she thought Uche was her husband. Nneka asks if that is how Felicia would have hurt her husband. Daniel comes back from the hospital with Uche. He has bandages around his head. Daniel asks him to come inside, but he says no. He asks Daniel to just help him bring his things outside. Daniel apologizes to him. Uche says Daniel married her and she's their wife. When Daniel goes in, he does not say anything to Felicia. It is night and Daniel is not back yet. Felicia calls his number, but he does not pick. She walks round the house house, worried. Daniel comes back in the morning and meets her asleep on the chair in the living room. He sneaks past her and goes into the room. Felicia wakes up and notices that he's back. She goes to the room to check and see him carrying his bag. He tells her he does not trust himself and with her and needs to leave. She begs him, but he does not answer. He carries his suitcase and leaves in his car. A therapist comes knocking on the door. She tells Felicia that Daniel has booked her for her. She tells Felicia that jealousy can be caused by insecurities, fear of abandonment, low self-esteem, and so on. She asks Felicia what the issue is. Felicia tells her about how she and Daniel were lovers from the village. She says Daniel left for the city and became rich. She had already given up on him coming back, but he did. He asked her to marry him and she came to the city with him. She says she realized that her standard does not meet up with the city's fine girls. Then low self-esteem became of possessiveness. The therapist tells her that she's glad if it is low self-esteem and they can work on that. They have sessions and she helps her go through her issues. Daniel comes back home one day. She hugs him at the entrance and thanks him for the therapist. She says she did not know she needed it. She apologizes for all she has done. He says he has forgiven her. She nearly killed her husband because of her low self-esteem. These things can be worked on and it should not take an outsider's intervention for it to be so. It is why communication is very important in every relationship we form. Oma Nations Pictures did a great thing with this masterpiece on YouTube and you should watch it. Please follow, like and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this.